stimulus into its economy as it says there is no need for it in a country with full employment, leaving policymakers reliant on unconventional tools to prevent asset bubbles. Singapore's jobless rate fell to a 5-year low of 1.8% as companies hired more local workers after the government tightened the inflow of foreign labour. Singapore's Finance Minister Tharman Shanmugaratnam commented, "We don't have an output gap and evidence of that is an extremely tight labour market. In that context, basically, you can't have an easy monetary policy, which in our case is an exchange rate policy." The minister also discussed so-called currency wars and Singapore's efforts to lower the influx of foreign workers and said property prices need to stabilise further, even as measures implemented earlier this year begin to take effect. A search for higher-yielding assets amid monetary easing in developed economies has fueled record property prices in Singapore, sparking inflationary pressures and social tensions. The central bank tightened monetary policy last year, allowing faster currency gains even as the economy grew the least in 3 years. Singapore's finance minister said, "We can't just rely on exchange rate policy and monetary policy to prevent bubbles being formed. You've got to find ways of throwing sand in the wheels. You've got to add some friction in the process." The finance minister says he is confident the government will get a grip on the housing market situation, but admits that there is still some way to go before prices are at an acceptable level. Singapore's currency has depreciated 1.2% against the US dollar this year after reaching an all-time high in July 2011 and climbing 6.1% in 2012. Singapore has remained vulnerable to fluctuations in overseas demand for manufactured goods. In a bid to become less reliant on exports, the government has boosted the financial services and tourism. Referring to Singapore's growth, Shanmugaratnam says the biggest issue is still what happens in the most developed economies. The risk of a currency war has also emerged as monetary easing from Japan to the US spurs demand for high-yielding assets and boosts inflows into emerging markets. But Singapore's finance minister says his main priority now is raising productivity to a new level and not allowing the foreign workforce in Singapore to grow faster than the local one. Well, that's all for now, but stay tuned to Dukascopy TV for the latest financial news. Have a great weekend and goodbye.